doing so far? You're feeling excited? You're having a great time? Okay, great. Now listen, let me say this to you. I know that the legal aspect has always been like the boring part of things, but I'm not your typical lawyer, so we're gonna have fun with this, okay? So tonight, I just wanna say thank you so much for the opportunity to Lincoln Bain and Yolanda Bain and all of those persons who would have come together tonight to have this event. I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I know that there's going to be a lot of information I'm going to try to get through. I've been given 15 minutes, say 15 minutes, to talk about like a really major subject. So who's going to be my timer? You got on the clock? Awesome, great. So, of course, because I would have mentioned just a little bit about myself. I'm an attorney, I'm a coach and a mentor, and specialize in business and corporate and commercial law. I mean, those are just a little bit of the things that I actually do. But tonight, what I'm going to be talking about is the legal aspects of business, understanding the purpose of why you need to plan, prepare, prevent, protect, and preserve your future profitability for wealth. So I see my girl is getting a photo. Then we're going to move on to the slide. She's a queen. Raquel, did you tell them about our event on January 21st? Oh, well, a group of us are having an event January 21st. I'm sure Lincoln doesn't mind, whilst I wait for my queen sister to get to the next slide. And we'd like for all of you to participate in that. And so tonight, one of the things we need to know as it relates to becoming a business owner, an entrepreneur, is the fact that, you know, it's an exciting journey. And of course, you get to be your own boss, you spread your wings, you know, you get to hire and fire and do all the wonderful things that goes along with it. However, it's important for you to know the purpose and the process for starting up your business. It's important for you to know why you should plan and prepare. Say prepare. And of course, it's very important that you know all of the problems, if not all, the potential problems and the potholes that you would need to avoid. So there are risks, there are rewards, and then there are challenges. And all of these are important for you to know as it relates to you getting started in business. Now, one of the first things I want to talk about is the fact that why you need an attorney. The reason why you need an attorney, because oftentimes when we start our businesses, we want to save costs. And, you know, we heard our next friend did this, or we want to get on board, or we want to do the same thing, or we want to go online and form our businesses, although those are not appropriate here in the Bahamas, except for now they've actually updated the registrar so that you can incorporate online. But in any event, the role of the attorney and why you need an attorney, because an attorney is going to help you save costs. Because if you don't pay now, you're going to pay later. If you don't pay now, you're going to pay later. The importance of having an attorney is because the law governs pretty much every aspect of your business. And of course, you want an attorney so that an attorney can advise and assist you with the whole process. Now, it's important for you to know that ignorance of the law is no excuse. So when you run into potholes or problems, you cannot say, I did not know the law, because you have every opportunity to connect with an attorney and to ensure that you are up to date and informed about the relevant laws as it relates to your business. So it's important for you to develop a legal organizational plan. And when I say that because it means that you should be aware of the legal aspects as it relates to the activities of your business. So some people may be selling clothes, some people may be offering professional services like doctors and lawyers and architects, and some people may be in the entertainment business. Whatever it is, it's important for you to have a plan as it relates to the activities. So one of the first things you want to be clear on is what type of activities am I going to be conducting in my business? The second reason why you're going to need to have a legal plan is the fact that there are going to be legal issues that will arise from time to time. There's no way for you to avoid completely any legal issues that may arise. However, if you are prepared and if you're properly planned and protected, there's a lot of legal issues that you may be able to avoid and prevent. Of course, the other reason why you're going to need a legal organizational plan is, number 3, you want to know how will I address issues as they may arise from time to time. So I have a friend who's right in here, and he was going into business with another party, and both of them were supposed to come to me for legal advice, but they never got to me. They went into a partnership, and I know my friend doesn't mind me sharing this, but I won't call his name. They went into a partnership, and what happened? What happened? Does my friend want to tell them what happened? The partnership failed. Why? Because they failed to consult an attorney, and of course, all of the rules and regulations and arrangements as it relates to that partnership was not outlined. And so, as a result of that, I'm sure both parties lost out tremendously financially, if not in the hard work of investing into the business. Remember I said this, you're gonna pay now, say this, pay now, or pay later. All right? So here are some things that I want you to be aware of. I'm gonna talk about like 10 main, well not talk, but I'm gonna mention today, 10 main things that you need to consider when you're actually becoming an entrepreneur, setting up your company, or partnership, franchise, whatever type of business you will be entering in. And these are general things that you definitely will need to be aware of. The first thing is you want to know what is the appropriate legal structure for your business. And I'll talk about that as I close later on, because I think it's important to note the distinctions as it relates to the advantages and the disadvantages as it relates to setting up different structures. The second thing you want to be sure of in terms of developing a legal organizational plan is the legal requirements for operating your business. And when I say about the legal requirements, as I said, everybody has a different type of business. You could have a business that is a goods business or services business. And depending on the nature and the activity of the business, it will determine which legal requirements are applicable to you. And so therefore, I want to use this example of setting up a business in an area, a location that has restrictive covenants. So you want to set up your home-based business, and the laws or the rules and the regulations for your gated community is that you should not operate a home business from out of that gated community. And that is something that you may not at first be aware of. I'm just using that as an example. But that is something that is going to restrict you as it relates to the operations of your business. And so for every type and nature of business, there are legal requirements that are applicable that you may or may not be aware of. And that's why it's important for you to always try to connect with someone who has experience and an attorney. Selecting the appropriate lawyer. One of the things I've come across is the fact that oftentimes we say, well, I have a lawyer friend. I know a lawyer. He's a lawyer. But is he a corporate lawyer, commercial lawyer? Is he a litigation lawyer? Because if he's a litigation or she's a litigation lawyer, and that's the area that they specialize in, oftentimes you'll find that when attorneys specialize in different areas, they're weak or not up to speed in the other area. So if someone is a litigation attorney and they focus mostly on litigation, you may go and ask them about setting up a company. And some people may not be able to tell you anything. They may be able to give you some inside information. However, if you went to an attorney that does business law, that sets up companies regularly from a day-to-day basis, wouldn't that person have more exposure, experience, and insight as to what it is that you are going to require as opposed to using a litigation attorney? So it's important for you to know that whenever you decide on retaining an attorney, that you want to know that this attorney has the expertise and they have the information that can help you catapult and grow your business. The other legal organizational plan that you would want to consider is business succession planning. Now, I know Bahamians. I know we want to start today, get the business rolling, and we ain't even thinking about tomorrow. We're not thinking about the future, our children. How many of you agree? Let me see your hands. We just want to get it off the ground. And once we start making, Lord help us, when that money start making, Lord help us. Forget about succession planning. Forget about the fact of what may happen if you happen to get ill or incapacitated. And so it's important for you to be thinking even now, if you're planning on going big in business, and if you're really planning on building wealth, about what a great succession plan would look like for you. How am I doing so far? Awesome. 5 more minutes? Okay, debt collection. Now, let me tell you about debt collection. Well, of course, when you're in business, you're actually going to be conducting transactions. And when you're conducting transactions, especially on credit, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to fall down. Somebody's not going to pay, right? So what you need to do is to be prepared for eventualities like that. Normally, you're going to prepare by virtue of some form of arrangement, as it is related in writing. In that, for example, if you have to collect debt, if the person is late on making payment within 30 days, this is the late fees that may be applicable, and so forth. And then, of course, you want to know what are the best ways about collecting that debt. The other area that you want to also be sure to have some information on is intellectual property. Now, of course, intellectual property, this is a very interesting area because we as Bahamians, we're very creative people. I mean, we come up with great ideas all the time. And one of the things that happens is because we're so competitive as it relates to wanting to do what the other person is doing. Y'all remember like the 99 cents business concept, right? So, you know, one person starts up and everybody else start doing the same thing. Now, in that instance, the whole concept and idea may not have been able to be copyrighted per se. However, the point that I'm trying to make is whatever your intellectual ideas are, or whatever it is as it relates to your properties that you may come up with in terms of your product, in terms of invention, you want to make sure that you clearly understand whether or not it needs to be protected, how I should go about protecting it. And that includes things like even logos, names. You know, all of those trademarks are extremely important if you're thinking about building a business for long term. The next area that you should take note of, even as you begin to set up your plan, is in the area of the landlord and tenant relationships. If you are going to be renting from a landlord, you want to make sure that whatever it is documented. You want to be clear about the type of arrangement that you have. Want to be clear, even as it relates to whatever is in the agreement as to what can happen or what are your options to end the lease or end the rental agreement. What rights do you have as a tenant, or if you're a landlord, you want to know what your rights are as well. Oftentimes, if we have this inside information, this will help us in advance to cancel out all of those magistrate court hearing because somebody didn't pay. I mean, sometimes you may get to that point, but if we are clear up front, we can help decrease, reduce, or avoid having to spend and waste time. Because how many of you know time is money? I don't want to spend the whole day inside the car. I don't know about you. Then, of course, personal injury for the type and the nature of business that you may be in, you want to consider personal injury. So for example, somebody's in the security business. You have employees. There's a lot of risk that's associated with that. So therefore, it's always wise to take out liability insurance and the respective indemnity insurance. Speaking of insurance, before I allow this to slip my mind, oftentimes we feel as if that we do not need to take out insurance. But I can tell you, depending on the business that you're in, it may be more than often enough extremely important for you to take out insurance. I want to share with you very briefly a story. Just the other day, I had a client who opened up a preschool, and she came to me to consult about her lease agreement. And as we were looking at that, and I was talking about the fact that, look, you're going to have babies there. How are you going to ensure that everything is protected if anything happens? So she was like, what you mean? And I explained to her, I said, I think you need to go and take out some insurance. So she said, well, I took out this kind of insurance. I said, no, that's not the kind of insurance I'm talking about. Well, then in any event, she took out the insurance. This was in September. School just opened, right? Listen to this. Now, I ain't trying to tell you. I'm not trying to say run to the insurance company, but listen to this. So the hurricane came. And the amount of money that she invested in the insurance, she got in less than what? September, October. Where are we now, November? $14,000 by investing, what, 500, 1,000, 14,000. Now, she's supposed to use that money to repair. She's supposed. She's supposed to use that money to help take up the carpet and all that kind of stuff. But I could tell you, 14,000 in less than 90 days when you're just starting a business, that sure came in a little handy, hey? It's important to do that and to take proper advice. And then, of course, the liability. All of those issues that you may be personally responsible for as it relates to business debts. So let's quickly, in my last 5 minutes, look at let's quickly go through the different structures, the advantages and the disadvantages of various business structures. Okay, so there are 3 main types of business structures, and these include the sole proprietor, that's the trading as, partnerships, and corporations. So a sole proprietor is a business owned and managed by one individual. Everybody knows what a sole proprietor is? Yeah, trading as, right? So let's look at some advantages of this form of business. Okay, of course, we know it's simple to create. It's less costly to form, to begin. It requires less capital. The owner has total decision-making authority. Who doesn't love that? There are no special legal restrictions. They're easy to discontinue. They own all the assets of the business and is entitled to all, say all the profits. I run digs, right? Of course, there's the disadvantages of this form. Let me tell you what some of the disadvantages are very quickly. There's unlimited personal liability for the owner, okay? Meaning that if anything as it relates to legal issue that may arise concerning your business, you can be sued personally, and your personal assets, okay, can actually be a form of benefit for somebody who you may not even care about, okay? Then there's undue risk, the inability to share the risk. So for example, in a partnership or a company, there's the opportunity to share risk, okay? There's limited access to capital. The inability to raise capital to finance the undertaking of an amount beyond the actual wealth of the individual proprietor. And so in often cases, I'm not sure of any bankers and stuff in here, right? There are? Well, sole proprietors, it's difficult to get loans, okay? Yes. That's the bottom line. I ain't telling you from just the legal, I'm telling you from experience, all right? But you gotta make sure how things set up properly, and I'm sure Mr. Poiter is gonna tell you maybe something about that. And if he doesn't, you can see me. Like I said, it's difficult to get a loan. Then there's limited managerial skills and capabilities because it's just you. You weren't trying to do everything unless you hire additional staff. And again, I don't know if I mentioned about the fact that the employer-employee relationship, the labor laws, what you need to consider as it relates to hiring people. And so you're the one that's trying to manage, you're the one trying to run the business, especially if you're a small business like that, then you really cannot give the business your full effort and expertise. Then there's a lack of continuity. Okay, I mentioned business succession planning earlier. So one of the ways you can expand is to obviously take on a partnership or convert into a corporation. A partnership obviously is an arrangement between two persons. I'm just going to say this to you without actually giving you the legal definition. But this type of partnership is normally found amongst like doctors and lawyers, architects and engineers. And what we require when we go into partnership is professional indemnity insurance to help protect us against any form of liability. But here are some of the advantages of partnerships. They're easy to establish. There's a larger pool of capital to contribute, because if Queen and I put together our monies to form a partnership and we add some Moon in there, then we got lots more money to play with, right? There's the ability to attract limited partners. The government regulation is minimal because the arrangement is really between the three of you all, or the three of us. The expenses and the management of the business are shared. And of course, you could have the complementary skills and partners of the partners. So I may be an expert in the law. She may be an expert in business planning. When we come together, Simone is the expert in HR. Then, of course, the partnership makes the business have the opportunity to succeed at a greater pace. Then there's greater continuity than a sole proprietor. What are the disadvantages? There's unlimited liability by at least one partner, with the exception of the limited liability. So basically, you can still attract the unlimited liability as it relates to being in a partnership. And then there's possible conflicts in that there's potential for personality and authority conflicts. So when you're going into partnership, one of the things, there's a scripture that I always tell people, the Bible says, be not unequally yoked. When we say be not unequally yoked, there has to be a meeting of the minds. And you have to make sure up front that, listen, this is how this business is going to operate. Because if you are unequally yoked as it relates to the meeting of the minds, or what you believe, or how things should operate in the partnership, you're going to end up having conflict. So each partner is liable for the debts of the business, whether jointly or severally. So Raquel may go out there and mess up and cause us to incur $1 million debt. I mean, behind our, the doors, we can tell her off. But when we get into this partnership, we're responsible together, okay? And then there's difficulty in disposing of the partnership interest, because everything is all in all of our names. Sometimes it's difficult to sever the ties, but it can be done. And of course, with a company, which you all have been encouraged to actually move forward to, and I would say to you, if you're looking to raise funds and capital, then you want to have a company. In fact, if you're looking for really big, like government contracts, they're looking for you to be incorporated, okay? So there's some of the advantages that are accrue is the separate legal personality, which means that the company has a liability and personality on its own as opposed to you. So if anything goes wrong, any legal issue arises, then they're going to sue the company, but not personally you. So the liability is not attracted to you personally or to your assets. It's actually attracted to the actual company. There's limited liability. Then there's the corporate ownership of assets. There's perpetual succession. So as long as you keep paying those fees and you keep updating the records, the company can last for a very, very long time. Whereas if a sole proprietor, if you die, your business dies. So if you're seeking and you're thinking futuristically, the corporation is one that you would want to invest in. Then there's the transferability of ownership. So you don't want to be a part of the company anymore, and you're holding shares. You can easily transfer your shares to somebody else. I'm backing out of this business. I want to transfer my shares to whomever, or I'm going to transfer my shares to my kids. If you're thinking generationally or estate planning, I'm going to transfer my shares, or I'm going to hold these shares in trust for my daughter or my son. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that you can do as it relates to companies. And then, of course, there's a separation of ownership and management. So basically, you could set up a company, but you don't actually have to be there day to day running the company. I mean, that's like the best form of business ownership there is, where you set it up and you're away doing all the other things you want to do, traveling the world, and you have the right kind of people in place and the right setup in place where your business can continue and you continue to make money. So what are the disadvantages? Well, of course, the cost and the time for incorporating. It's not cheap to incorporate. And of course, you have to pay these annual fees in addition to your business license fees. Okay? So it is costly. You may be limited as to the capital that can be raised. Of course, there are lots of legal requirements and regulatory red tape. So in a company, you cannot make the decision on your own. You have to consult the board of directors and the shareholders. Okay, bring them up to speed on that. And then there's the restriction on the share ownership sometimes. There's the piercing of the corporate veil. So if there are any fraudulent activities going on, the separate personal entity, the court can lift the veil, meaning go behind the company. Go and look for Kadar. His company may be Global Express, but some fraudulent activity has been taking place. The court does have the power to remove the veil and target Kadar separately, but that's not going to happen to you, hon. And then there's potential loss of control by the founders. So you would see in many cases, people set up businesses, and because the people who are managing and running the business, they kind of feel like they run the show. And what happens, therefore, is the people who actually initially incorporated or set up the business, they kind of lose a sense of control, even though they hold shares. Because sometimes things get so far gone as it relates to the management, it's difficult to really pull in the reins. And so as I conclude tonight, how am I doing? Timer? Okay. Pardon me, I'm really trying to stick with the time frame. 10 minutes over, I'm going to close like this. So it's important for you as an upcoming business, global enterprise, major company, it's important for you to prioritize your goals and your objectives. What is it that you really want to achieve in that role or that capacity as a business owner? What are you seeking? And once you determine what your priorities are, your goals and your objectives, then of course you want to structure your business in a way that suits and frames your objectives. More importantly, that protects your wealth. It's important for you to hire your dream team. And this is like my little personal tip from my motivational stuff. But you need a dream team. You need to have an attorney. Say, I need to have an attorney. And I am going to hire Melisa. You need an accountant. Okay, you need marketing people. You need a dream team. You need a strategist. And say, I am going to hire Raquel. You need a strategist. And so basically, if you're really seeking to be successful in business, develop a dream team. You see, because it's going to take a lot of the headache off of you, and you're going to have the input and advice from experts. And it's going to save you a lot of money. Be smart, hiring a dream team, being familiar with the rules and the regulations that are applicable to your type of business. Not because you have an attorney doesn't mean that you should not be aware of the law as it relates to the business that you are doing. You too should do some reading. And then you got to think big. Say, think big. And then you must prepare for opportunities that do not yet exist. Prepare for opportunities that do not yet exist. Okay? Of course, you want to get protected from the unexpected. Nobody really knows how things are going to turn out. We cannot plan out every eventuality, but we can put actually frameworks in place or legal protection in place that will help us to save costs and avoid many potholes. People may say, well, I just have a little small business, I have a little this and that or whatever. Yeah, but the simplest thing can cost you lots of money. Anybody had that kind of experience before? Like a little small thing, just keep turning it to something else. You'd be like, my God, I just knocked this car. And there was only a dent. But yet the person has a sprained neck. Now they want to take me to court. Now they're going to have to suffer personal injury for the rest of their life. One little small dent in the car. And then finally, prevention is better than cure. We all know that saying, right? Prevention is better than cure. Now I want you to stand as I close. And I'm going to share with you my power mantra, because everybody in here is going to be successful, you're going to be great, and you're going to kind of take over. And I want you to repeat this after me. Forget about what I said about the law. Repeat this. There are no limitations. There are no restrictions. There are no boundaries as to where I can go, what I can do, or who I can become. I have the power to go big in business. Now, y'all believe that? One more time, turn to your neighbor, and when we're done, you give yourself a round of applause. Repeat this. There are no limitations. There are no restrictions. There are no boundaries as to where I can go, what I can do, or who I can become. I have the power to go big in business. Now give yourselves a round of applause.